What's going on YouTube? It's your boy Jay-Z Bottom Lip, and today I wanted to speak to you guys about overextending. Overextending refers to a situation where a player commits too much to an offensive action or a sequence, leaving them vulnerable to punishments if it doesn't work out in their favor. It typically happens when a player tries to keep pressing an advantage or forcing an opening without guarding for space, frame data, or opponent's potential response, which can be if I do certain moves in particular and my opponent understands that they can OS backdash, or they can kind of like whiff punish me for certain sequence and events, if that makes sense. So I'm going to give you guys a few examples on what overextending looks like, and I'm pretty sure you guys have seen these in tournaments or you have done them yourself as well. I went for a combo like this, right? I go for a restand and then I try to grab my opponent, right? What will happen at a high level is that when you restand, the only thing that jails off your restand as Conan is stand one. Nothing else jails. You can stop your opponent from jumping with other buttons like forward 2, down 1, and so on and so forth. Again, down 1 does jail because it's 7 frames and you stand 1 7 frame. But I'm just saying, like, there's certain strings in this game, especially with Conan, where even though they might not jail, it stops your opponent from pressing. So what I'm getting at is, since 7 frame jails, and that's the only way you can jail off of a restand, then you should understand that your grab is like 10 frames, 11 frames, right? Which gives your opponent enough time to kind of OS if you don't jail them, right? So something like this will happen where you try to grab me, and now I win the whole entire game. You see what I mean? So this is a form of overextending that a lot of players do because they're trying to hurry up and end the round. You have to understand that people have clutch factors. As players, we have clutch factors. Some players also make great decisions under pressure, which is just the same, this clutch factor. You also have some players who are really good at OS ducking. There's a lot of OSing in this game just because you're able to flawless block each individual string. And since you're able to do that, it gives your opponent the time to actually OS options where they can like see if something doesn't jail, they can slightly duck, they can wait for certain moves in particular. They can also understand that your character might not have a guaranteed or in other terminologies, people say like true 50-50s, where you might have a true overhead or low, which starts off as overhead or low. And understanding that Conan doesn't necessarily have things like that, you don't have to look out for those, so you can kind of OS his options. So going for grab in a clutch situation like this, where you just want to hurry up and win the round, is probably not the best decision to make. I also want to give you guys another example of what overextending looks like, and this is actually like matchup knowledge in my opinion, but it's also overextending because you have to understand that some characters in this game have strike throw, but then you also have to understand or keep up with the update of the game because sometimes they even take away character strike throws. Just like Kung Lao in the beginning of the game, he used to be able to have like strike throw. Now they kind of want you to incorporate your cameo to get strike throw, if that makes sense. So like calling your cameo after a throw and then maybe jumping in or gelling into whatever move it is in particular. That's kind of how you keep your strike throw now. They just want you to incorporate that. But if you ever overextend where you just believe that your opponent is just going to allow you to get away with something in particular, then we also consider this overextending. So I'm going to give you guys an example of what that looks like. So with Tanya, it looks like this actually jails. See how like I can kind of like meaty with my forward 2 after I throw? We consider this like strike throw. But at the same time, they kind of took away her strike throw, so I can do things like this. See how I can backdash on hard knockdown? I can punish her from that range. See? See that? So I can actually punish her for thinking that she can meaty without her cameo. Now I get a whole combo, because I understand that she doesn't have strike throw anymore, and if she doesn't use her cameo here and she throws out that button, she dies for it. There's nothing that she can do right here to kind of jail off of a strike throw situation like this. Maybe catching me backdashing with stand 3 would probably be her best option, but she doesn't have any other button outside of stand 3 that would jail me off of a hard knockdown like that. And every time I would get a combo for it. And I also understand that I am still OSing her, where I'm slightly backing up but still blocking. But I recognize that she's throwing a button out, and I can whiff punish her by backing up into a button. Oh, caught her. and I'm anticipating this, I'm not necessarily making a reaction. I'm making a read, and I'm OSing at the same time. Just because I know off of her throw, if she doesn't use a cameo here, I can slightly back up and react to her throwing out a button, and from there, I can whip punish her. One of my favorite overextends that I see a lot of people do at a certain level is that you guys would do certain strings in particular, make a read as if your opponent is going to armor, and you guys would jump. But not only is that something that you would think about when you do that, you kind of just anticipate your opponent waking up buttons or waking up jumps, so you kind of anticipate jumping first. But you also have to understand that you have something called Oki, but you also have to understand what exactly is Oki and how do you get Oki. And then on top of that, using your frames to your advantage, and then understanding that you may get a jump here or not. For an example, if I was to do something like this and try to jump after, this is a form of overextending because I cannot necessarily do that. My opponent can up block here. Just because the move itself is 25 on hit advantage, which allows me to be able to wake up and still block and up block him because he's not utilizing his frames correctly. So not utilizing your frames correctly will allow you to get punished, but also get knowledge checked by your opponent because they're going to understand that you're not supposed to be able to do that right there. You're not going to be able to do this full string and not hit confirm and then think you can get away with jumping here. I'm going to have enough time to actually up block and then punish you from here. So if I was to use another string, something like this, I can get a safe jump there, and there's nothing that they can do here. This is where you utilize your strings correctly. See that? I couldn't even up block there. And I can't press there either, because if I did, I would die. I can go on and on about how there's so many different examples of overextending. It comes down to just doing something in particular that you know you shouldn't do in whatever situation that it is. I'll give you one more example of overextending. I hope this helped you guys. So let's say I did a combo, right? I did this because this kind of jails, right? That kind of jails, right? So let's say my opponent did something like this, right? And they wanted to keep pressuring me, but I wanted to make a read. Now I'm blocking and I ducked that and I punished that, and now I win the game. This is a form of overextending because you didn't have to do that. There's more safer routes that you could have done to kind of win you the round, and this kind of get you killed. I'll give you guys one more example. Another example of overextending would be, let's say that my opponent is about to die, right? And I meaty him, but he flawless blocks, and I do something like this. This is not necessarily a form of overextending, but at the same time it is, because if I know that my opponent's health is a little low and he tries to flawless block and I do something that's negative like that because I thought it was going to chip him out, this is still a form of overextending. And then I punish him and kill him for it, right? This is a few things that you need to watch out for when you are about to win, or you feel like you just want to hurry up and win the round. The best thing I can give you as far as an advice is probably just reset neutral or go for more of the safer options. Even if you do something in particular that you feel like your opponent may grab you and put you in the corner, I'd rather that than you do something negative that makes you lose 30%, 40%, and even 50%, depending on what character that you go against. The best option is just do something safe or reset neutral. Keep it very simple and try not to overcomplicate things, because when you start to overcomplicate things, you mental stack yourself and you can lose from there. There's plenty of examples on online tournaments to offline tournaments, or even just playing combat leagues, of people doing these exact same things. Now, sometimes in some cases, we do these things because we're playing casuals with our friends and we kind of just want to hurry up and get the game over with and move on to the next match. But even then, you also have to keep in mind that your opponent is still going to make decisions like that where they OS, because the game incorporates this. And then on top of that, they might even go for a safe route where you might do a string that has a gap in it, and then they call a cameo that allows them to combo off of their special move, that where you did a gap and then they get a combo and then they kill you for it. So again, just keeping yourself safe is probably the best option when it comes to overextending, so you can stop yourself from overextending. But there's also a few situations where overextending is really good. And that comes down to just like what kind of character that you're playing with, an aggressive type character, a S tier character, top 5 characters like that can get away with things like that. So just watch out for things like that. So like common examples again of overextending would be like throwing out unsafe moves at neutral or on block or hoping that they hit, committing to overcommitting to pressure or block strings that aren't safe or tight to kind of like pressure your opponent, chasing too hard after a hard knockdown, retreating your opponent, or trying to confront your opponent, leading to a reversal, counter hit, and then dying for it. Trying to end the match again, like I said, too early or too quickly can kind of get you punished. With punishing multiple attacks can get you killed. Is still a form of overextending. The consequences of this is getting whiff punished or countered or losing the momentum or corner pressure as well. And this from here can get you KO'd. It can get you, it can send you to loser's bracket. It can make you lose the one round that you really needed to kind of win the set. And again, that comes down to momentum. So again, guys, try not to overextend. I know you guys have been asking me a lot about like what exactly is overextending. I hope this helps you guys understand exactly what overextending is. I know I've been using that word a lot. I apologize. But anyways, I appreciate you guys watching as always. If you guys can like, comment, and let me know what kind of videos you guys want to see next, I would appreciate it. And also giving feedback as well is appreciated as well. It's your boy Jay-Z Bottom Lip. I'm out. Have a good one.